Fewer injuries this week could mean less opportunity on the waiver wire. However, we do have some young players continuing to gain some steam that you can add to your fantasy football team. I should say off the top, I am recording this before Monday Night Football has been played. So Christian McCaffrey has not yet scored those 45 non-PPR points that I need in order to win my home league, but I'm sure they're on their way here real soon. What's up, you guys? This is the ADP, the Average Dudes podcast. I am your Average Dude host, Matt Mormon, and we're going to take a look at the waiver wire this week as we head into week 8 of the NFL season. We are halfway through the season, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely insane, absolutely nuts to me that this thing is just flying by the way it is, and we continue to improve our teams and add players into the mix. So we're going to take a look at some of those guys who you may be able to find for free out there and add to your team. Let's start things out here with the messy position of the running backs. Darrell Henderson kind of leading the way in my opinion. I did not expect much out of Henderson. I was kind of down on him going to the Rams midweek last week. I thought that Royce Freeman would kind of be the guy. I was with everybody else thinking maybe Zach Evans could be the guy. Turned out it was Darrell Henderson. He may have been scooped up in your league, but go check. And even if he wasn't, Royce Freeman probably is still a good ad to go get. We have seen the production that can get churned out of this Los Angeles Rams backfield. And hey, now he is just one injury away. And as we know from the 2023 NFL season, every running back who is one injury away holds some water. Another guy who was just one injury away, got that injury and got a huge opportunity was Amari DiMercado. He really let us down a couple weeks ago when he was the number one fab pickup by a lot of people. He came back strong this week, though. Played at 80% of the snaps, had 13 runs for 58 yards. He does have the Ravens this week. I have low expectations for this one. I do not want to be picking up Amari DiMercado, but I'm willing to if I necessarily need a plug and play. There probably are other higher upside handcuff options out there. I would be more willing if I'm not playing DiMercado this week. I do not want to add him. I would rather roster a Zach Charbonnet, a Tank Bigsby, a Zamir White, guys who I think have higher upsides if they were to fall into an opportunity than I would DiMercado. But if you have to play him this week, DiMercado would be your guy. Another one, just check out there first. Make sure Kareem Hunt is on a roster. Jerome Ford has a low ankle sprain. He'll be out probably 1 or 2 weeks, it sounds like. Won't be real long. But as we know, pockets of relevance. That's what the running back position is all about at this point. I think that's the thing that's really going to become a theme moving forward is you're looking for these windows of value among running backs. Kareem Hunt might have 2 big weeks here before Jerome Ford returns from injury. That being said, Kareem Hunt probably on rosters in your league. Pierre Strong now shifts up on the depth chart and becomes the name to know as the number 2 guy there in Cleveland. They continue to be a very good running offense. Let's have a little bit more fun. Let's go to wide receivers. Wide receivers are great. We love wide receivers. Josh Downs, he was our headliner last week. Just bring him up again. Make sure he's on a roster. Same with Jackson Smith and Jigba. A couple rookies here kicking things off. Actually, a lot of rookies in the wide receiver section here of the waiver wire this week. Jackson Smith and Jigba, the first-round pick for the Seahawks. He is really, really good. We've known that. The Seattle Seahawks are just now figuring that out. He had a great opportunity this week. DK Metcalf was out with hip and rib injuries. I don't know. DK might miss some time, in which case JSN continues to blossom with this great opportunity. Even if DK comes back, I think JSN is going to matter for the rest of the year now and be relevant for your fantasy team. Make sure he's on a roster. He probably is, but they were on bye 2 weeks ago now, back in week 6. And so guys sometimes get dropped when they're on their buys. And also he's done nothing so far this season to really justify a roster spot. Rashee Rice, a 3rd straight rookie here among wide receivers. You sense the theme of the week. He went 5 for 60 and a touchdown last week. I've mentioned Rashee Rice on almost every waiver wire show. I am continuing to get him on my rosters. He's had at least 4 receptions now in 3 straight games. He goes and plays Denver this week, and I think that we can see him continue to be a big part of this offense. Kendrick Bourne, he is not a rookie, but he continues to play pretty well for the New England. He is the main target in New England, and, it's a low passing volume. It's one that you don't love, but one guy can sometimes emerge out of those situations. Kendrick Bourne does appear to be that guy for the New England Patriots. One more rookie out of these wide receivers, my little, babysitting pen we got over here with all these young baby boys hanging out on the waiver wire. Jalen Hyatt, he had a career high in 5 targets last week with 2 catches. I don't understand my own notes here. But he had a career high of 2 targets this week for Jalen Hyatt. He has played 70% or more of the snaps in back-to-back weeks. That is the rookie wide receiver for the New York Giants. Another rookie. Let's change positions and keep on talking about rookies. Let's go to tight end, Dalton Kincaid. He had 8 targets, 8 catches, and 75 yards in this one. He's been getting dropped in a lot of leagues. I totally understand why. I would be there right there too. If I drafted him, I would probably no longer have him on my rosters because he has not justified it so far this season. However, a nice game this past week, and maybe more importantly for moving forward, Dawson Knox suffers a wrist injury. He is going to be out for about a month from what I understand. Dalton Kincaid is only rostered in 31% of ESPN rosters in ESPN leagues. So a lot of opportunity for him out there to be picked up onto your teams. I think if I were to give an overall ranking, I think Henderson is probably my number 1 overall pickup. And then Josh Downs. But then JSN actually. JSN would be number 1. Jackson Smith and Jigba number 1. Then Darrell Henderson. Then probably Josh Downs, and then Dalton Kincaid. That's probably how I would navigate it from the top down. But I do think that depending on what your roster is and what your roster needs, you can definitely make a case for Dalton Kincaid over all other players on the waiver wire this week. Taysom Hill, also a viable pickup among tight ends at this point. Not only is he throwing the football, he's running the football, and now he is even catching the football. This tight end is catching the football for the first time in his career on a consistent basis. He's out there doing everything. And it gives him so many avenues for fantasy relevance, right? It doesn't have to come in one way. And he can get a little bit of everything. Last week, 4 catches for 50 yards. That's not that grand. You add in a rushing touchdown, though. And he got 5 opportunities on the ground. That doesn't go away for Taysom Hill. He continues to churn out these opportunities and get these chances. And just a little bit of each one adds up to a very nice production for fantasy football. Last tight end I want to mention is Michael Mayer of the Vegas Raiders. He had a really nice game 2 weeks ago now. Kind of quiet in this most recent one, but they do play Detroit this upcoming week on Monday Night Football. They allow the second most points to tight ends this season. So definitely opportunity there for Michael Mayer to be a streaming option at tight end. Lastly, the quarterback position. First things first, go check your waiver wire. Make sure on Dak Prescott and CJ Stroud. They're both just on bye. There were 6 teams on bye. So there may have been teams out there who could not hold a second quarterback on that bye week. So make sure those 2 are rostered, especially CJ Stroud. He's got a great matchup this week. Among other players, I'm going right back to Jared Goff. That's my first one. I know he's come off a really bad game against the Ravens. I'm going right back to Jared Goff. He's at home where he has performed so much better during his entire Detroit tenure now. And he's got the Raiders. They allow the 5th most points to Detroit, or the 5th most points to quarterbacks. They even let Tyson Bagent look pretty decent last week. Derek Carr, the former quarterback for the Raiders, he faces the Colts this week, who allow the 6th most points to quarterbacks this season. He's looked pretty healthy this past week after suffering that shoulder injury about a month ago now, I guess it is. He has Indianapolis this week, and then he has Minnesota the week after. So if you're looking for a 2-week play, maybe a guy who can help bridge that gap to a Justin Fields, right? Then I think Derek Carr can definitely be that guy for you for the next 2 weeks. Speaking of Minnesota, Jordan Love, I'm getting right back on that horse, and he faces Minnesota this week. I know it's not always pretty with Jordan Love. Maybe it's Me and my friend Nathan used to talk about how when you had Phillip Rivers on your fantasy team, don't watch the games. Do not watch Phillip Rivers play quarterback. Just enjoy the fantasy points after the fact. Jordan Love might be that guy at this point. Do not watch the games, but he's playing Minnesota. I trust there will be some fantasy goodness that comes out of that. For some deeper league streaming options here, this is going to be a little ugly, but I think I actually prefer Tyson Bagent or Tyrod Taylor, one of those two, over guys like whoever's starting in Vegas this week with that injury situation. I prefer them over Joshua Dobbs, Gardner Minshew, Sam Howell, the perpetual streaming Sam, and even Baker Mayfield. He's got Buffalo this week. I prefer the matchups here for Tyson Bagent against Chicago in the rushing and just, the low turnovers, like what we can get at Tyrod Taylor. He does face the Jets this week, so that could also be a DST to pick up as the Giants do have so many offensive line injuries. I could see there being a lot of sacks in that game. I think Tyrod could get you lower end streaming. It's not what you want out of your quarterback at this point. You would prefer a guy who's in the top 10. But if you absolutely have to, I think Tyrod or Tyson Bagent could actually get you through a week. I'm going to take a quick look here. I did not plan on DSTs today. So we're going to take a quick look here at this upcoming week's schedule and see if there are any DSTs that could be available who really stand out to me. First thing to go do is look at who the Giants. The Giants have the Jets, so the Jets are definitely one, and they're on bye this past week, so they are another one who could have been dropped and can maybe even be picked up for free, depending on how your league works before waivers even run. So that's always one to go look at. New England. Who's New England playing this week? New England is facing Miami. So Miami, they very well may have been dropped. They were just facing Philly this week. So that's always definitely a possibility here. The Washington Football Commanders are another good team to target, but they're facing Philly. Most likely they're on a roster. The Bears, I actually just suggested Tyson Bagent because they're facing the Raiders. They're facing the Chargers, who do allow quite a bit of points to quarterbacks. Some other teams with some backup quarterbacks maybe you can target are like the Raiders or the Browns. Let's see who those two are facing this week. The Browns are facing the Seattle Seahawks. So that's definitely one that you can go pick up the Seahawks and play them against the Cleveland Browns. And then who's that one? Detroit. Detroit's probably on a roster. Another one, though, they could have been dropped because they were facing the Ravens this past week when a lot of teams were on bye. So, guys, that will do it for the Week 8 waiver wire preview. Go pick up some players. Hey, if you lost last week, maybe some of these guys can be the difference for this upcoming week. If you've been losing all season, then, hey, hopefully you can pick some of these guys up and really turn things around and sneak your way into that 6th playoff spot if your league has that many. You can always keep on trucking for that last one. And if you're winning, then, hey, maybe you don't get the top fish. Maybe you don't get a Dalton Kincaid. You definitely won't get a JSN, but hopefully we have helped you find a few guys further down the line who can definitely fill in the back part of your roster and be useful down the road. So, guys, that's going to do it for us here this evening. Best of luck on those waiver claims. We will be back later on this week previewing each and every single game, getting you ready to set those lineups for Week 8.